Hello and welcome back to the only live Monday through Friday lacrosse talk show on the planet. You are watching Daily Dive. It is Wednesday, February 26, 2025. I am your host, Michael Carvelis in Guyton, Georgia. We are live on 12 Ounce Sports via YouTube, Roku, and Fire TV. Subscribe to the 12 Ounce Sports channel on YouTube for other great shows and live sports. On today's awesome show, it's going to be a very special one because simply we're going to have NLL Midseason report cards featuring Adam Levy. Literally, that's the show. No power rankings. I'll postpone those till tomorrow. But it's just me and Adam Levy giving out mid-season report cards, so I cannot wait to get to that. Before we start, though, we want to remind you, this show is presented by tickets.12onsports.com. That's tickets.numbers12letters.ozsports.com. Get your National Lacrosse League tickets for less by going to that website, which includes every sport and all your favorite artists' music concerts, not to mention Broadway and theater. Tickets.12onsports.com. Without further ado, let's bring in Adam Levy for our NLL mid-season report cards, and of course, you get another graphic.
It's amazing, and a graphic that is inspiring. As we've talked about, I've actually now started going on to the gym. Not to say that you fat shamed me in the last episode, but I have been working out. It's been far overdue, and this graphic makes me feel like this is the goal. So I'm very happy about it. And man, it'd be nice to get a nice tan like that again. I am going to San Diego this weekend with my, so hopefully that happens. It'll be nice to have some warm weather, and glad to be here for this special edition of Daily Dive.
Are you going to a Seals game or just vacation?
No, Seals are not playing this weekend. It's going to be a music festival, actually, that we're going to as part of our probably will end up being a scattered month-long 5-year wedding anniversary celebration.
Congrats, by the way, on that happy anniversary. You have been of the breaking news territory. You're like our Adam Schefter, so your phone might be buzzing, which, by the way, sounds like this. I like playing that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact that you went out and got that sound just for this, amazing. That shows your dedication. I appreciate it. But I do. Let me just say quickly that I do appreciate that, and it is a lot of work. I got some articles coming out, Philadelphia Wings updates for you for Inside Lacrosse, so make sure to check that out later. But I also, the work that I do wouldn't, be possible without all the incredible sources and people that I talk to. And sometimes people like me are the beneficiary of people who are the voiceless or aren't able to have a voice. And I'm happy to do that and take on that burden. And it's funny, I won't mention who it is, but there was a GM that I had spoken to, and he had asked me, how is it that I get all this information? And, talking to a lot of people goes a long way. So, it's nice to see people noticing, but, this is far from a one-man job. This is a team of workers, worker bees, as you can call them, especially down in Georgia with the Swarm, that really make what I do possible. So I never forget that, and I appreciate all that.
We appreciate your sentiments. I echo the same, even though I'm not as into that lifestyle as you are, but I've dabbled in a few times. Just recently, these will affect some of our grades. We had to make some late adjustments, and they are accurate as of Wednesday, February 26, 2025. But the Rock give Nick Rose to the Roughnecks for cookies and a first-round pick. The Wings have acquired Shane Simpson from the Dogs and Mitch DeSnoot from the Rock. And the Desert Dogs have Landon Holden and Tony. Those are the big names that obviously count here, among others, obviously.
Right, and obviously we cannot grade based on what we are hearing, like the idea that there is talks going on between the Colorado Mammoth and the Toronto Rock that would involve Tom Schreiber joining the Mammoth because Zed Williams is out. That is all just conjecture and talk at this point, but we'll see what happens there. But yes, these grades they definitely have gone over a couple of adjustments since these moves have come through.
Well, a team that might want to make some moves. Let's go to we're going to do alphabetical order here. Let's do Albany Firewolves first. I came out with a C+. You came out with a C-. Just briefly, my reasoning on that was as follows. Let me get to it. Here it is. They blew so many leads early on, and I do count expectations as part of my grade. I thought they had pretty high expectations. I gave them the rookies being like Johansson and Dyson being really good as a little bit of a caveat. But how did you come out with a C-?
Yeah, and it sucks. I hate to be critical to a team that I have spent so much time around and was so incredibly excited to see the success that they had last year, really defying the odds. I think that you laid out 2 points that kind of factored for me. I have every bit of confidence in Coach Glenn Clark and GM Glenn Clark and that whole coaching staff, Clem DeRazio, Daryl Gibson, and the team is fantastic. But I think that's what it is that, we saw what they did, and they are a team that maintained their roster, kept those pieces, and even added more great pieces. I didn't work on, I wasn't a small piece of a documentary about Dyson Williams being, the next one without thinking that he was going to be, the greatest thing since sliced bread this season. And, even if that's hyperbolic, maybe I thought that would have been better, that he would be at, let's say, 50 some points now instead of 38 or 39, or, that he'd be having more of an impact, on the even strength, although he's been, solid on the power plays as well. And then, but injuries have played a huge factor. Now that is key. And that is the key with a lot of the teams that I think both of us have lower ratings on. But I think we also can say that we've expected Doug Jamieson to be better than he's been. And so even with pieces out, and we will have to see Jackson Ishimura coming back, Colton Watkinson coming back now into the fold. How is that going to impact the team going forward? That's yet to be determined. But with Alex Simmons and Ty Kurtz and Ethan Walker doing what they did last season, and yes, adding Dyson Williams and Will Johansson, who has been elite, definitely not getting enough talk and praise about his play. I just thought it would have been a lot better than it is now. And I know that some of those losses were tough.
Yeah, I was trying to switch graphs behind the scenes. It didn't work out. But yeah, no, I echoed those. I think because they had injuries, that's why I kind of bumped them up a little bit more. Because I did kind of take that into account, but couldn't go any higher. Couldn't go into the B range. That just wouldn't be right to me.
Yeah.
Speaking of team, high expectations, I went A+. Why did you not go A+ on the Bandits? I'm just curious.
I think really what it comes down to is they haven't been perfect. I don't think I gave any A+. Did I?
No,
I don't think I did.
Spoiler alerts, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, to get an A+, you have to be perfect, and there have been times against the toughest teams, even against Toronto, against San Diego, including that loss, where it hasn't been perfect. Now I know that they also have some injuries. Matt Spanger new, Dylan Robinson new. But the way, if you look at the way that things were going in the first 5 games when they were blowing teams out of the water, when they faced the cream of the crop, it exposed some things for the Bandits, not in a way where I'm concerned at all. I definitely think that this team are the favorites to win the title still. I also think that they are an incredible team, and I think that Steve Dietrich and John Tavares, and they're going to find a player on defense that can help, at the trade deadline, just as Paul Dawson did last season, because I don't think that they're going to allow those two holes that they have currently to just sit like that. And I actually talked with Paul Dawson about his experience being traded to the Bandits on the Lacrosse Matrix podcast. That episode is going to drop today. But yeah, so that's why I didn't give the Bandits a perfect record. And also, you got to humble the Bandits fans, I guess. If I give them an A+, they're just going to be like, we're the best, we're the best, which they are. We all know it, but we don't need to keep talking about it.
Real quick, my mindset was, I just kind of was like, if I give them an A instead of an A+, am I nitpicking? Which to be fair, you are nitpicking a lot with the Bandits.
Yeah.
But I mean, not you, but like you have to criticize.
Yeah.
You have to like define points. But I thought that them walking to San Diego and getting revenge was why I bumped them over the top of the A into the A+. But I can see your reasoning on that.
Yeah, well, look, and we'll also it'll be so exciting, and I think we'll learn a lot both about Saskatchewan, who we'll talk about later in the program, and Buffalo this weekend, which is going to, I hope, be the game of the year.
Ooh, can't wait. All right, next up, we're going to go to the Calgary Roughnecks, again, alphabetical order here. Both landed on A. Obviously, I had lower expectations than probably most people.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what your expectations were, but how did you land on your A grade, sir?
Admittedly, and I have been apologizing on a bit of an apology tour for the Calgary Roughnecks because I did not have high expectations. Definitely did not have them sitting at an above 500 record at this point in the season. And the fact that they just went out and they pretty much solved their biggest issue, which was turning out to be much less of an issue than we all expected it to be in goaltending, picking up Nick Rose. It's one of those things where fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I just, until they actually start losing a bunch of games and playing like they really shouldn't, like we expected them to be, or at least that I expected them to be, I can't give them anything but incredible praise for what they've done. I spoke to GM Board yesterday, and he said, prognosticating is tough. Making those picks is tough, especially in the preseason when you haven't seen a team play that year. But, they haven't been thinking about that. They've been thinking of winning, and that's clearly showed when they're out on the floor.
Yeah, and you did bump yours up. I mean, you didn't bump them up much, but you bumped them up enough, I think, to give them this grade, and I did too. I mean, obviously you officially acquired Nick Rose. I don't think they win a championship. That's a story for another day, but I think it definitely helps their biggest need, which was goaltending, obviously, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, Calgary was not the best team going into the playoffs in 2019 when they won. They won a couple of important games that got them into the playoffs, and then they just clicked on every facet. That was, the championship breakout for Christian Del Bianco and the playoff breakout for him. But Jesse King, who's still there, Curtis Dixon and Dane Doby, who were still there at the time, were part of that run. So, what teams do in the regular season and what can happen if you get all the pieces clicking together, really, anything can happen in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that Calgary is going to do that and upset Buffalo or maybe like a San Diego or Saskatchewan or Halifax or one of these other top teams out there, but they do have history saying that they come together at the right time. So we'll see.
I believe it. Well, I want to believe it. Okay, how about that? It'll be good for the morning shoot around podcast. All right, Colorado Mammoth. They're in talks, but they're not certified yet. We are a little bit 2 grades different. By the way, folks, the grading scale was A+, to C-, and F. I did not like any D's. Adam did. That's on him. But we didn't do any D's, just so you guys know. But anyways, Adam had a C+ for the Mammoth. I had a B. My reasoning was high expectations. Will Malcolm's been up and down. Losing to Albany, Las Vegas at this point is not great. And being 3-3 at home is also concerning to me. But I thought B was kind of fair. How'd you land on C+?
Again, I think it was expectations in terms of, what with this healthy team, with everyone looking like we expected them to do, it was a great roster. On paper, that offense is ridiculous, like just insane. You've got Robert Hope, who's been really, really good, but Dylan Ward, again, has shown that he is not the Dylan Ward that, we expect him to be all of the time. He has been improved from last season, in my opinion, which I'm very happy to see. But I really thought, it was them and Saskatchewan for me. I think I had even tweeted out in preseason where I was like, you better watch out for these two teams because they're going to surprise a lot of people. And based on their record, Colorado 6-5, yes, they're in a playoff spot. Yes, they're above 500. But, I think realistically, and this may have been overvaluing them, but I would have thought that at this point of the season, they'd be something like 8-3 instead of 6-5. So I think that's what played a factor into it.
I like the C plus. Like I said, you may have been a little bit higher preseason than I was. I mean, I was up there too, but we're similar in like a way where our expectations kind of landed. So I can see the similarities here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the Halifax Thunderbirds. We both got a B. I thought this team had decent expectations. Warren Hill has been really good because they started 2-4 and 0-3.
Mm-hmm.
They won 4 in a row. They swept Philadelphia, who I liked. Mike Robinson's a good rookie. How did you think that would be?
Yeah, I mean they started out slow and now they've found the formula of success. And like I just said, I think that they're one of my top 4 teams to compete for a championship this year. I think it was Stephen Keogh that tweeted out during the game last weekend that if Halifax can get a home playoff game, that he thinks that they can go on to win the championship. And I don't think he's necessarily wrong in that, because the way that they look right now, and this has been without Tyson Bell, who is set to hopefully return this weekend for their game against Las Vegas, I think that just adds an extra piece on top of everything that already seems to be clicking. And it has been those transition guys, Ryan Terefenko, you've had Clark Peterson on offense, and then you add Tyson Bell into the transition as well. It's just going to be really great. Warren Hill has been very solid, and that offense. Randy Stotts has been great. He really is such an amazing facilitator. I think that they're just playing lights out, especially defensively, and they do say defense wins championships. Graham Hossack, can't not shout him out. He's been the cyborg, as we all know him to be, and so it's been awesome to see this turnaround for Halifax. Also, Jake Withers, who had started out slower and now has come to life at the faceoff dot. So, yeah, a lot of positives for Halifax. They look really strong right now.
I echo all that. Barefoot Assassin, Cyborg, whatever you want to call.
I like Barefoot Assassin. That's a good one.
Cyborg's nice though.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just keep going, or you want to take a break? I know we're up against the time.
No, whatever. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. All right. I know H comes after G in the alphabet. I don't know why I did these differently, but the Georgia Swarm are the next thing we're going to do.
Yeah.
We both landed on a B-. Brett Dobson is not taking the step I've wanted him to. They're 4-1 on the road, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
They did lose to Rochester and Ottawa back-to-back. That was rough. They're now 6-4 after 4-0 start.
Yeah.
Oh, this is up and down for me.
Yeah, I think that, Lyle Thompson has been fantastic again this season, really having one of his most complete years that he's had in a while. The reason for me why they are at a B- is because, again, unlike Halifax, they started out super strong. They looked really hot, and then things started to unravel a little bit. I know that injuries, again, have played a factor, and they will always play a factor for every team, and missing TJ Camizio and Adam Wiedemann is rough.
Yeah.
That is a tough duo to be missing on the back end there. So, but again, like you said, Brett Dobson, who, while I will say he deserves so much credit for the incredible performance that he had against Toronto, 55 saves against that offense is unreal. And they credit him with a caused turnover. One of only 2 players to do that in NLL history. So, yeah, very cool stuff. But yeah, so I think that it's only because of the skid that they've been on, but consistency has been an issue for them over the last couple of years. They've tended to go on winning streaks and then to go on losing streaks and then go on winning streaks. And it's like, how do you get to do that every week and for 60 minutes? That seems to be something that has not completely been figured out just yet.
Yeah, Dobson's. Pretty much that's why I pushed him on to a B-. So I thought that was against a very starving Toronto team,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a big deal. That's why I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Georgia. Las Vegas Desert Dogs, our seventh team we're getting to here. Both C minus, not much to talk about besides maybe they should have drafted a goalie instead of Donville. That's been thrown out into the wind. But
Mm-hmm.
quick thoughts on Desert Dogs.
So first of all, I think that they deserve some credit for getting Holden Katoni, just another piece of that offense to keep things going. And Holden, as I've written about in my 3 up, 3 down for IL Indoor, his facilitating abilities are very, very strong. He is a great playmaker, also a fantastic goal scorer. When you add him to that offense that includes the likes of Jack Hanna and Jonathan Donville, like that is a team that knows how to move the ball around. And if they can start finding the back of the net, that is incredible. Connor Kirst has been a development, which has been nice. It is still early days for this franchise, so it's tough to be a little bit too critical. And it's really, I said this, I think also this earlier today when I was recording Inside the World of Box Lacrosse with Steven Stamp, that Sean Williams deserves so much credit for really being proactive and making a lot of moves, bringing in Tyrell Hammer Jackson in last week, making a couple of other changes, bringing guys in. I know that, people are still a little puzzled about the situation dealing with Jacob Rouet and him not being with the team, but he is being proactive, which as a fan of a team, if your team isn't getting the wins, you need to see your management making moves, and that's what he's doing. So I think that, that deserves a lot of praise, because that can also be really tough. There are managers who hold on way too long until it's too late, and then you're digging out of a hole that just sucks.
No, I agree with that. And like you said, I've been critical of teams that have kind of sat on their hands a little bit, but it is good to see them realizing, hey, we need to get better. Like Colorado trying to get Tom Schreiber. Hopefully, obviously they haven't done it, but hopefully that does come to fruition, because obviously it's not working as much as we thought it would with them.
Yeah, it is an interesting move. I mean, I think that there are so many great pieces on that offense. Missing Zed is tough, but would Colorado maybe have fared better if they had tried to? They've got a lot of young pieces on defense. Do you bring in a guy if you think that now is a time for a run? Do you maybe have picks or young guys going the other way to bring in a more veteran, like what Philly did, bringing in Mitch Desnu, Chris Corbeil, and people that can really help you right now on the defensive side of the ball. But obviously, no matter where Tom Schreiber goes, he's going to be elite, and adding him to that offense, if I had high hopes about them before, I mean, this is scary stuff.
They might actually beat Buffalo. I'm just saying.
I mean, they've done it in the past.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Ottawa Black Bears now, as we've reached more than the halfway point here, the Black Bears, I got B minus, you got a C, which is a little bit like a couple levels below me. Listen, Jeff T, what was it, like 53 points and 52 turnovers? I got to mount that to, got to have more balance on offense. I got to say, you can't always have Teat save the day. Dunbar's been nice in spots, which is good, but I felt like Ottawa, and Zach Higgins, to me, the pickup for Zach Higgins has been unbelievable. His backup only has 4 minutes. He's awesome. So I think B minus for them, because they have great expectations for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Ottawa Black Bears team that, let's be realistic, without Zach Higgins, they could easily have like 1 or 2 wins this season, because the offense has just not been where we expected it to be. They obviously did have 18 goals against Albany. But we did just kind of talk about Albany's defensive troubles. So, how much of an accomplishment do we want to credit that? Jeff Teat also a sock trick in that. I think, and you can actually interject after I say this, because I want to hear your opinion. I wonder if your grade, it being a B minus, has something to do with because your expectations of Jeff Teat are lower than others.
No, so what's funny about that is I thought he was going to have a Superman type year. Like, we did a whole Man of Steel thing to start the season, and I've been kind of disappointed in that aspect, because I'm told he's the best, and it's just like, if you don't produce, it's like talent can only mean so much sometimes.
And that's totally fair. I think I've always held Jeff towards the top of that list, and often at the top of that list of greatest box lacrosse players. And obviously now with what he's doing in the PLL, greatest overall lacrosse players. And so I think, again, if I look at it from an Albany perspective, if I'm being completely fair to all teams and looking at it from the same perspective, you have a team that had offensively the same pieces there. You brought in Zach Higgins, who has been has been the MVP, the MVP of the team and the goaltender of the year in the National Lacrosse League. Despite that record, that is, I know that you've had Dylan Ward as your number one, but the record that they have has absolutely nothing to do with Zach Higgins whatsoever. They need to be compartmentalized, because what he's been doing is really excellent and showing how good he can play. I love Larson Sundown and what he's capable. I've spoken to Jacob Dunbar and what they can do. The consistency, again, has been the issue for that offense, and getting everyone to click on the same night has been very difficult, and that's something that they're going to need to figure out. But Riley O'Connor being back and having that kind of injection into the offense is very helpful. You would ask me with Pat Gregoire on the show, the Teat Whisperer, and I think that definitely that chemistry can help, and that ability to communicate and whisper ideas and talk to guys like that is incredibly beneficial. But it has not been the season that I think many of us expected for the Black Bears.
I guess that's where I think the difference is. I had the Riptide expectations technically still.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the fans have been great, by the way, which way better than Long Island, unfortunately, and fortunately at the same time. But I guess I had lower expectations than most people.
Yeah, well, I should say that for the fans of the Riptide, like, you do have to be realistic that Ottawa is a much better market for a box lacrosse team than Long Island is. There is this field box clashing that you have out on the island. That is a field lacrosse mecca. Yes, that does mean that it is a lacrosse mecca, but most people on Long Island aren't box lacrosse fans, and converting them and finding the time and also the accessibility. I know that the Canadian Tire Center is not necessarily the most accessible, but people in Ottawa love their sports and they come out. But that area in Nassau Coliseum, like, I remember talking to Peter Schwartz about this. I mean, getting there is difficult. You have to drive. There's no public transportation. There's like nothing really around. It was difficult to get to.
Yeah. Philadelphia Wings, another great sports town here.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them a B, so did you. I just felt like Mitch Jones and George Harris were doing their best Burn and Dane Smith impression. I thought O'Neill's amazing. Michael Sowers has been a nice pickup. Now they've acquired Shane Simpson and Mitch DeSnoo. They're 3-2 at home in front of the hungry fans. How'd you land on the B?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's been interesting is, the defense has been the issue. Talking to the coaching staff, they've wanted to have more movement from the back end and transition up to help that powerful offense be able to do what it can. And Mitch and Joe have been fantastic. Had they been having more wins, I think we would be having more of that conversation again of them being in the MVP conversation. But where they are right now with the record, it's a little bit difficult. That doesn't discredit the numbers that they're putting up. But yeah, defensively and in transition, that has been an issue. Again, Nick DeMude has not been what I think people expected him to be. I think that there was a lot of people that were pro Zach Higgins and a lot of people that were very pro Nick DeMude, and they were like, oh, Nick's just going to come in and he's going to do what Zach did. Day. And I'm not saying Nick can't do that. I think he can. And I think, again, like, he's got the mindset and the ability to be a great player in this league. It just, all the pieces haven't come together yet, but maybe having Mitch DeSnoo, Chris Corbeil, and then a dynamic player like Shane Simpson can help him to be in the right position, be able to read offenses, get that experience. I mean, we don't talk enough about how valuable it is, the communication between goaltender and defenders, and how that chemistry and working off each other is so important. And that could be a huge boost with those veterans coming in. So I have high hopes for the second half of the Wings season. I think it's going to be really exciting, but still injuries are a problem. Liam Patton, they're waiting to see him. He was injured last game. You've had Tony Malcolm be injured. Scott Dominy, which is a rough injury, especially not only a fan favorite, but an energy guy who can do so much. So again, injuries have played a factor there. But if you look at, again, if I'm being fair, with the Georgia team that started out hot and the Wings team that started out hot, and then things haven't gone their way, well, you can't be too overkind with a great.
Yeah, I did have like lower expectations for the Wings, where they've made the moves from Paul David, trying to get better, which I love.
Yeah, again, like what I said from Coach Williams, like this is you want proactiveness. You want guys making those moves, and they've been really active. So you can't fault them for that.
The Rochester Nighthawks, as we're vacuuming now. Okay, I'm so stupid. The Rochester, no, you're good. The Rochester Nighthawks, I lean on a C+. This is one of the ones where I'm actually lower than you. It's like I'm negative Mike once again here. You had a B-. I had higher expectations for the Rochester Nighthawks. I know Lanchbury is somehow almost the same amount of points as Connor Fields. So that's awesome. Ian Lord's got 26 blocks. Rylan Hartley in relief / retaining his starting role against Hutchcraft, 71 save percentage, even though they only allowed 10 goals against Calgary. But I think Rochester, I don't know, they started the season 1-4. They've gotten better, but so up and down. I had higher expectations for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, they've got a really good roster. Again, Dan Coates being out their captain, their defensive leader, that was just so difficult and very challenging. The goaltending situation, I mean, I don't have to continue to pump the tires of Riley Hutchcraft, who also just welcomed his second child to the world. So congratulations to Riley and his wife on that. It feels like at least 6 or 7 babies in the NLL were born this week. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was great to see that Mike Sisselberger came in and started taking faceoffs. Now he's kind of come down to earth after a couple of really good games. And again, maybe that's because guys are figuring him out. I know he's doing a lot of different things. He's got a lot on his plate. Connor Fields doing great. Ryan Lanchbury is on the up and up, which is great to see. Thomas McConvey is having a better year than his first year in the league. Obviously, I need to, again, plug the Lacrosse Matrix podcast. That podcast episode with Thomas McConvey is going to come out later today as well. What a great conversation. Amazing head on his shoulders. But yeah, the goaltending situation is just not as elite as you need it to be at the top. But at the same time, and I as my final point, the schedule that they've had has been arguably the toughest schedule that anyone has played in the NLL so far this season. 2 games against Buffalo, 2 games against Saskatchewan. They've played Halifax. They played San Diego. Like this is a team that has had to face challenges early, and despite injuries and despite making movements, they've still, in my opinion, and I say still, 5-7, because when you have that kind of schedule, you could be doing a lot worse.
That's a great point, because it was like basically 4 scheduled losses, and I thought they played Buffalo really well, though, at least the first game. And so, I mean, that's a great point. And they're probably, off the top of my head, the only team that's probably done that too, like played those teams 4 times. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've played, yes, both of those games at Buffalo were losses, both the games in Saskatchewan, but, you're facing those challenges early, and you learn from. And then since that 1-4 start, I mean, you beat Georgia in Georgia, you beat Halifax in Halifax, you beat Calgary in Calgary. I mean, these are all key road wins that show the character of this team. And so with the schedule looking forward, actually, if you look at it, nobody there is above 500 right now, I don't think, except Ottawa might be, but But yeah, the schedule is a lot more favorable to them than it was in the past. No, Ottawa, sorry, is 5-5, so they actually don't play an above 500 team, at least as it stands now, for the rest of the way.
It's not bad. San Diego Seals. Another one I had a lower grade than you. Listen, I was really high on Riglieri and Wesley Berg. What's really weird to me is that I like Rob Hillier. I know he hasn't been the same since Toronto, but he's got more points than Wesley Berg, so that's got to count for something. Zach Courier, I put a little knife emoji because he's been a Swiss Army knife. Baptiste and Benesh getting hurt have been tough. Trent DeChico's a good rookie, but I've expected more from the Seals, even though they did beat Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, the big key, and I know Coach Merrill had told me about this, was that they were missing Trey LeClaire for a good chunk of, and he's just such a dynamic player, so talented, and really helps. He's one of those key pieces that does what Zach Courier does what Trent Tico does, which is move the ball up the floor, has a lot of energy and tenacity, and can do more than one thing. And when you're missing one of those guys, that's really tough. Again, Chris Riglieri has had some games where he hasn't been at his best, but he's also shown how good he can be. And I think that there were, and again, being fair, that there was a time that while the offense did come together quickly, that with all the pieces and the lack of familiarity between that offense and those guys, that takes time to build those things.
Yeah.
And so that's just something to consider too. But I, as I've said, I think a couple times now, I think that San Diego, what they've shown against Buffalo in those last two matchups, even losing the last one, they show that they can compete with the best. And that's why I have them a B, and maybe that's even too low.
It might be. I think Wesley Bergen pointed out the roster, roster finally getting its legs under them, especially offensively. So that could be a good point as well.
Yeah, and I credit to Wesley Berg, who gave me some very good brunch recommendations for my trip to San Diego.
Ooh, that's awesome that he did that. Actually, that's cool. Saskatchewan Rush. My second A+ of the year. My only two, of course, Buffalo and Saskatchewan. I know that John Fraser was like the first to the punch. Maybe you were too, about like how great this team could actually be. I think Thomas Kaisick, a 20-year-old, I don't care how good that guy might end up being. I don't care if he ends up being Matt Vance 2.0. Kaisick just throwing in relief the first game and then dominating the second game was good enough for me to push him to that perfect rating. I don't think you could ask for much more besides the attendance, and I'm not going to hold that against them, because I feel like once they keep on winning, it's going to be great. But they are the team that to me can beat Buffalo if we chrome to my dome right now if the season ended today.
Yeah, I think that they are, next to the Buffalo Bandits, they are the most complete team in the NLL right now, showing it. And I think in many cases we weren't sure what to expect. They brought in Austin Shanks, which has paid off tremendously. The rookies that have been brought in, Levi Anderson and Brock Haley, have been paying off amazingly. Jake Naso, an American at the faceoff dot, has been playing very, very well. It seems like then you got that defense in transition. Jake Boudreau is really one of the top players in this league. Mike Messenger. You could go on and on just praising how focused, determined, fast, athletic, strong, really making a lot of smart decisions. And I feel that when I watch their games, I think that they get better and tougher to play as the game goes on, which is exactly what you want from a team. And I've seen that in person, having seen them play in person a couple times this season. And yeah, that's scary. Like, if you're not playing your best ball, I'll say it in the positive voice. If you play your best ball in the second half when it matters the most, then you're going to come out with wins more often than not. And then when you've got a goaltender like Frank Scigliano playing at some of the best ball that he's been playing in his career, everything's clicking for them right now. I'm really impressed with them. But again, I can't give a perfect grade because they're not perfect. And so an A is the best I can do.
I like that. Papa Skiggs, as Del Bianco calls.
Just another one of the babies that was born recently. So
love it. Congrats on all the. I'm not even saying. All right, Vancouver Warriors with Kurt Malosky and company.
Yep.
I labeled a bunch of teams decent expectations.
Mm-hmm.
This team had like a higher than decent, but not tight, not yet high.
Yeah.
Aiden Walsh has been great. Their offense, it's like right there with Ottawa. How can you have Keegan Ball, Adam Charlene Bees, Kevin Crowley signed lacrosse ball that I won on Preston's picks? How do you do? I don't get it. Although Ryan Dilks has been great.
I mean, and Aiden Walsh has been very solid as well, and really making any possible trades in the goaltending situation even more difficult to have to stomach. But for me, and yes, we've talked about it on this program. I've been a Vancouver homer, and I've had such high expectations for what I think that they can do for a long time, and especially the way that they ended the season last year. I was like, okay, this team, Kurt Malosky having a full off season there, like after what they did, they're going to go in and they're going to be a no nonsense, kick teams around kind of team, really go out there and be unbelievable. And they've shown how gritty and tough they can be, but they've also given up some key leads. You saw that game against Colorado. You've seen some offensive lapses, and it hasn't all come together again. Praise Alex Stopakis for the effort again. If you're going to praise Jake Naso, you got to be pleased with Alex Stopakis, and also his loose ball rate has been great, which means that he's not just giving his wing guys an opportunity to win the faceoff for him, but then he's actually grabbing it himself, which I think makes him even more valuable. The defense with some key veterans have been really solid, but record-wise, I just would have thought that they would have been better than they are, sitting at 5-6, under 500 right now. Riley Lowen isn't having the same year that he was having last year. Just want to pull up his numbers really quick. Last year finished with 52 points. This year he's on pace to have 38. So that is not what you would expect from him, and I think that they're going to piece things together. I'm very curious to see, because all the teams around them, you have the Colorados, you have the Halifaxes who may be in on the trade deal, maybe getting Brad Cree, you have the Colorados with Tom Schreiber, the Philadelphia Wings, are Vancouver, and I'll throw in Rochester right in there, are these teams that are like, hey, everybody else is making moves. Do we make a move? Whether it is forcing something with the Christian Del Bianco deal, or if it's something else, do they go out because they are just going to get, drowned out by the competition if they just stay put?
Good point. This might be, I think it was Dan Lomas that said this might be the best trade deadline ever.
Dan's been creating some incredible content. I believe I've actually been trying to, I've said publicly that the NLL should hire him as part of their marketing team, because he has just been so on point with his awesome tweets promoting the league. So awesome to see him doing that. And he does the same thing and says great stories about the league when he's on the Back of the Bird podcast. Which is one of the great player-led podcasts, which is another thing. So many of those are popping up, as I had reported yesterday. There's another player-led podcast on the horizon with two former NLL players. Then you've got the morning shoot-around. So really a lot of stuff going on right now with the players being proactive about having their voices be heard, which, as a fan, you got to love.
Media sensation Jonathan Donville really spurred that, in my opinion. I love calling him that. The Toronto Rock are the final one we're going to do. You had a late change to a C+. I also got them as a C+. I actually like the fact, let's say for the sake of argument here as we wrap it up, that the gamble from Jamie Doubt pays off, the guys come back. What do we get in return? A bunch of first-round picks. No big deal. Come on, man. That's not terrible. Even though the injuries to me were a valid excuse for a while, but once they blew it to Buffalo, and once they couldn't finish off against Georgia, I'm like, I couldn't do it. Couldn't bring them home.
I mean, and I'm actually feeling. I think that my C+ is so confused by all the moves and all the injuries and all the things, because how do you really rate this team? Because if you're looking forward, selling off, so they're not going to be great. So do you consider that? Do you consider the fact that they were missing literally 5 of the biggest, most important pieces of their entire lineup and all over the floor? Like, literally, how can you expect to win with those guys out? And to be honest, like, yeah, the loss to Georgia and the losses to, Buffalo. However, those were very competitive, close games. Those were the kind of games that, Albany has a tough record. Vancouver, not where they are, but not because those games were blowouts, because Toronto has been way better since those guys have been back.
Yeah.
But I think that, yes, looking forward, because, again, being fair, we have talked about how trades have impacted the team. Jamie has admitted that this is a project for the future. And so, while I give him 100% credit for being proactive and not being afraid to take a gamble on these guys maybe testing free, or maybe he's gotten word and hasn't said, he's had those conversations like, hey, like, I know you can do this, let's sign. Guys love playing in Toronto. They love, being in that area. Most of those guys are from that area, so
right.
Travel makes it easy. But yeah, I mean, when you're selling off all your players and admitting that this isn't going to be the great season for you, I think an average grade is fair.
Yeah, and Ottawa. I'm just saying Ottawa could snatch some of those guys if we're being honest. Again, story for another day, podcast, article, etc. But Adam, that was fun, and
that was a lot of fun. And I almost let you get away with the fact that you put Toronto after Vancouver, which alphabetically.
T-U-V.
Yeah. So
that was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I hope the viewers enjoyed it, and I hope that. I would say comment when this gets posted. Let Mike know what your grades are on all the teams. It'd be very exciting. Let him know what your trade grades are, because this has been a wild pre-trade deadline, and I expect much more to come. So very exciting stuff around the National Lacrosse League. And Mike, you've been killing it with the coverage.
That's a great idea, trade grades. I should do that on another show next week or so, or when the trade deadline happens. We'll see. Yep. Adam, because there's nothing else to do here, we're just going to say have a great day to everybody. Follow him at Adam Levy LAX on Twitter and Adam_Levy_LAX on Instagram. Have a great day, guys. This has been Daily Dive. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 on Sports, guys.
Thanks for watching Daily Dive. See you next time.